Title suggestion: the brutal truth about failure that the I Ching figured out 3,000 years ago. You are currently standing at the edge of a cliff, and the ground is starting to give way. Maybe your business is hemorrhaging cash. Maybe a relationship you spent a decade building just collapsed in a single afternoon. Maybe you're looking at your bank account and realizing that hope is no longer a viable strategy. Every piece of modern advice tells you to pivot, to grind harder, or to stay positive. But 3,000 years ago, a man sitting in a damp, lightless dungeon wrote a single sentence that proves all of that advice is not only wrong, it's dangerous. He said that the only way to survive the abyss is to stop trying to climb out of it. Instead, he told you to become the very thing that created the abyss in the first place. Today, we are decoding Hexagram 29 of the I Ching, the abysmal. This is the strategy for the moments when there is no good choice left. This is how you win when the universe has already decided you should lose. To understand the weight of Hexagram 29, you have to understand the man who refined it. King Wen of Zhou was not a philosopher sitting in a comfortable library. He was a political prisoner. The tyrant Xin of the Shang dynasty had already murdered Wen's eldest son and served him to Wen in a soup to test his loyalty. Wen ate the soup. He stayed silent. He was thrown into the dungeon of Yoli, expected to rot and die. Most men would have broken. They would have thrashed against the bars until their hands bled. They would have begged, or they would have cursed. But Wen did something far more terrifying. He observed the water that leaked through the stone walls of his cell. He saw that the water didn't panic. It didn't argue with the stone. It simply was. He realized that he was in the abysmal, a pit within a pit. In the I Ching, Hexagram 29 is represented by the trigram of water doubled, water over water. In ancient China, water was not the symbol of peace it is in the West today. It was the symbol of danger. It was the flood that wiped out villages. It was the bottomless gorge. It was the unknown. King Wen realized that the Shang dynasty was a flood, and he was a man caught in the rapids. The bridge between his dungeon and the modern world is this: we are all living in a water era. The traditional structures of safety, the 40-year career, the stable market, the predictable social order, have been washed away. We are all, in some way, sitting in that dungeon. Did you know that the word crisis in Chinese is often said to be composed of two characters, danger and opportunity? While that is a popular Western mistranslation, the I Ching provides the actual version of that truth. Hexagram 29 doesn't say danger is an opportunity. It says danger is a process. If you skip the process, you lose the reward. Think of the companies that survived the dot-com bubble of 2000. Amazon didn't survive because Jeff Bezos found a loophole. They survived because they embraced the abysmal. They accepted that the water was rising, and instead of trying to fly above it, they built a boat that could handle the pressure of the depths. They became sincere to the danger. Most people fail because they spend all their energy pretending the danger isn't there, or trying to leap over a gorge that is 10 miles wide. King Wen didn't try to leap. He stayed in the dungeon for 7 years. He used the abyss as a forge. We live in a culture obsessed with peak performance. We want the mountaintop. We want Hexagram 1, the creative. We want the power of the sun. But you cannot have the sun without the water. Hexagram 29 is the dark night of the soul for the strategist. It is the moment when your plan has failed and no one is coming to save you. This is the most cinematic moment of your life, but you are currently treating it like a mistake you need to erase. The I Ching says, stop. The water is falling into the ravine. If the water stops to complain, it gets stuck. If the water tries to flow backward, it evaporates. The only way for the water to get out of the ravine is to keep being water. Let us go to the first teaching of the abyss. The text of Hexagram 29 begins, the abysmal repeated. If you are sincere, you have success in your heart. and whatever you do succeeds. Read that again. Whatever you do succeeds. How can you succeed in the middle of a double abyss? The secret lies in the word sincere. In the original Chinese, this isn't about being nice or honest to others. It is about congruence. It means that your internal state matches the external reality. If you are in a crisis and you are pretending you aren't, you are insincere. You are out of sync with the universe. And when you are out of sync, you are weak. Think of a professional poker player who has just lost half his chips. The insincere player panics and tries to win it all back in the next hand. He thrashes. The sincere player accepts that he is now a short stack. He changes his strategy to match his new reality. He becomes the danger. The actionable principle is this: stop fighting the fact that you are in trouble. The moment you accept the depth of the hole you are in, you gain the ability to use the walls to climb out. Why does the I Ching use the image of water for the abyss? Because water is the only element that cannot be broken. You can hit it with a hammer, and it simply moves. You can throw it into a fire, and it becomes a gas that can melt your lungs. You can freeze it, and it will crack the very stone that contains it. Success in your heart means maintaining that water nature when the world is hitting you with the hammer. Most people are like glass. They are hard, they are impressive, they are clear, but when they fall into the abyss, they shatter into 1,000 pieces. Are you glass or are you water? Glass tries to protect its shape. Water knows its shape doesn't matter as long as its essence remains. If you lose your job, you haven't lost your shape. You've just lost a container. If you are water, you will just find a new container. But if you think you are the container, you will die when it breaks. Think about the last time you were truly afraid. Not a worried about a deadline afraid, but a my life is falling apart afraid. In that moment, what did you do? Most of us reach for a distraction. We reach for a drink, a screen, or a lie. Hexagram 29 calls this the pit. The text says, "The water flows on and does not pile up anywhere. It passes over rocky places and does not lose its reliability." This is the second teaching, the strategy of persistence. Reliability in the abyss means that you don't change your core values just because the circumstances have become rocky. Think of Nelson Mandela. He was in the abysmal for 27 years. He could have compromised. He could have piled up in the pit of bitterness. But he remained reliable. He remained water. He used the time to fill the pit of his own character. When he finally flowed out, he didn't just have a title. He had the mandate of heaven. Consider the modern entrepreneur. You launch a product and it fails. That is the first abyss. You then spend your remaining savings to fix it, and that fails. That is the abysmal repeated. This is the moment where most people quit. But the I Ching says this is the moment where the success in your heart is actually tested. If you are sincere to your vision, you realize that the first failure was just the water filling the first part of the ravine. It wasn't a signal to stop. It was a signal that the ravine is deeper than you thought. The actionable principle. Mastery is not the absence of failure, but the ability to remain fluid through a sequence of failures until the level of the water reaches the top of the dam. Every failure is just a fill operation. Stop looking for the exit and start looking for the fill. Let us look at the specific lines of the hexagram. The first line says, "In the abyss, one falls into a pit." Misfortune. This is the most honest line in the whole book. Sometimes you just fall in. There is no lesson. There is no silver lining. It just sucks. But the second line gives the strategy. The abyss has dangers. One should strive to attain small things only. This is the secret of the small win. When you are in a massive crisis, do not try to solve the whole crisis. You can't. If you try to jump out of a 50-foot pit, you will just break your legs and end up in a worse position. You must attain small things. You clean your room. You make one phone call. You write one page. you survive 1 hour. These small things are the pebbles that the water carries into the ravine. Eventually, they pile up. Think of Admiral James Stockdale, who was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 7 years. He noticed that the people who didn't survive were the optimists, the people who said, "We'll be home by Christmas," and then Christmas came and went. Then they said, "We'll be home by Easter," and Easter came and went. They died of a broken heart. Stockdale practiced the abysmal strategy. He accepted the brutal reality of the pit, but he focused on attaining small things. He created a secret tap code for the prisoners to talk. He focused on surviving the next interrogation. He didn't look for the big win. He looked for this small reliability. The actionable principle. In a crisis, your vision is your enemy. Your routine is your savior. Stop dreaming of the mountaintop and start obsessing over the next 3 inches of the climb. I want you to think about someone you know who is drama-prone. Every small problem becomes a catastrophe. Every setback is a conspiracy. These people are the opposite of water. They are fire. When fire hits a rock, it flares up, it consumes its own fuel, and then it dies. The I Ching is teaching you how to be the person that others look to when the building is on fire. Why? Because you are the only one who isn't trying to run for the door. You are the one who is filling the space. The third teaching of Hexagram 29 is about the middle path. The trigram of water has one strong line in the middle, surrounded by 2 weak lines. This represents a strong internal wall protected by a yielding external shell. If you are hard on the outside and soft on the inside, the abyss will crush you. If you are soft on the outside and hard on the inside, you are invincible. Consider the concept of stealth wealth or quiet leadership. These are modern applications of the middle path. You don't brag. You don't show your cards. You don't waste energy on the performance of being powerful. Your strength is enclosed by the abyss. This is what the I Ching calls the sincerity of the heart. No one can see your strength, but everyone can feel its effects. When the market crashes, the loud leaders are the first to be exposed as frauds. The enclosed leaders are the ones who have been quietly building their wealth for years. Actionable principle. The more dangerous your situation, the more quiet you must become. Noise is the leak through which your power escapes. We must address the most terrifying line of the hexagram. Line 6. Bound with cords and ropes, shut in between thorn-hedged prison walls. For 3 years one does not find the way. Misfortune. This is the stall. This is the moment where you have done everything right. You have been water. You have been sincere. You have attained small things. And yet, the thorn-hedged walls are still there. You are still in the dungeon. The I Ching is the only strategy book that admits that sometimes you will be stuck for 3 years. What do you do when the abyss becomes a permanent residence? You realize that the cords and ropes are not there to punish you. They are there to define you. Have you ever noticed that a diamond is just a piece of coal that stayed in the abysmal, under high pressure for a very long time? If the coal had found a way out early, it would just be a slightly warmer piece of coal. It needed the prison of the earth to become the diamond. The strategist knows that some problems cannot be solved. They can only be outweighed. This is the strategy of endurance. Think of the lost decade of many great creators. J.K. Rowling was a single mother on welfare, sitting in a cafe, bound by cords of poverty. She didn't solve her poverty. She stayed in the abyss and wrote. She allowed the thorns to keep the world out so she could focus on the world inside. When she finally emerged, she wasn't just a writer. She was a phenomenon. The actionable principle. If you cannot change your circumstances, change your definition of them. A prison is just a temple where the doors happen to be locked. What are you learning in your 3 years that you could never have learned in the sun? We have looked at the dungeon. We have looked at the water. We have looked at the stones. Now we must look at the exit. How does the water leave the ravine? It doesn't climb. It accumulates. It waits for the next rain. It waits for the spring thaw. It waits for the nature of the universe to provide the extra. This is the mandate of heaven. You cannot force the world to give you a break, but you can be the person who is full when the break finally comes. Most people, when the rain of opportunity finally hits their life, they aren't ready. Their container is leaky. Their sincerity is gone. They have become bitter and dry. So the rain just washes them away. But the person who has practiced Hexagram 29 is like a deep, clean pool at the bottom of the gorge. When the rain comes, they simply rise. They don't even have to try. They just flow over the edge. The I Ching is not a book for tomorrow. It is a book for now. If you are feeling the weight of the abyss today, here are the 3 specific, concrete actions you must take this week. These are the small things that will start the accumulation of your power. Do not skip them because they look simple. They are the binary code of your survival. First, perform a flow audit. Identify where you are piling up. Water only becomes dangerous when it stops moving and becomes stagnant. In your business or your life, where are you stuck in a loop of thinking without doing? Where are you waiting for a big win instead of taking a small action? This week, find 3 stagnant pools in your life. A difficult email you haven't sent, a budget you haven't looked at, a conversation you've been avoiding. Do not try to fix the whole situation. Just move the water. Send the email. Open the spreadsheet. Say the first sentence of the conversation. Prove to yourself that you are still water. Prove that you haven't become ice. The goal is not the result. The goal is the flow. Once the water is moving, the abyss loses its power over you. Second, define your non-negotiable sincerity. When the abyss hits, the first thing we usually sacrifice is our character. We lie to cover a mistake. We cut a corner to save $1. The I Ching says this is the misfortune of the second pit. This week, identify 1 core value that you have been tempted to compromise because of your current stress. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's your time with your children. Maybe it's your absolute honesty with a partner. Draw a line in the sand. The abyss can take my money. The abyss can take my sleep. But it cannot have this. By protecting one thing from the abyss, you create a dry spot in your heart. That dry spot is where your success will eventually be built. If the abyss takes everything, including your character, then there is nothing left to rise when the rain comes. Protect the middle line of your trigram. Third, practice the ritual of small things. In Hexagram 29, the only way to avoid madness is to obsess over the reliable. This week, choose one ritual that you will perform every single day, regardless of how bad the news is. It could be a 10-minute walk. It could be writing 100 words. It could be a specific breathing exercise. When you perform this ritual, you are telling the universe, the abyss does not define my day. My ritual defines my day. This is how you attain small things. Every time you complete the ritual, you are carrying a single pebble into the ravine. You are filling the pit. You are the water that does not lose its reliability. Look at your hands. Are they shaking because of the abyss, or are they moving because of the ritual? Choose the ritual. Why do we fear the abyss? We fear it because we think it is the end. We think the ravine is the grave. But the I Ching knows better. The Book of Changes is 64 hexagrams, and hexagram 29 is right in the middle. It is a transition. You cannot get to the success of the later hexagrams without passing through the sincerity of the abyss. The most powerful people you know, the ones who seem unshakable, are not people who have never been in the pit. They are people who have been in the pit so many times that they eventually realize the pit is their home. When you stop being afraid of falling, you gain a superpower. You can go where no one else dares to go. You can flow over rocky places that would shatter anyone else. The abyss isn't trying to kill you. It's trying to make you water. We began with a prisoner eating a soup of his own son's flesh in a dark cell. If King Wen had stayed positive, he would have died. If he had pivoted to a new philosophy, he would have been forgotten. He survived because he became the abyss. He realized that the tyrant was just a piling up of water that would eventually burst, and he was the steady current that would still be there after the dam broke. Your tyrant might be a debt collector, a competitor, or your own self-doubt. They are the fire that flares and dies. You are the water that flows and lives. Success is not a destination. Success is reliability in the rocky place. If you are in the abyss right now, do not look for the exit. Look for this small thing. In the next episode, we will look at Hexagram 48, the well. We will learn how to maintain your inner resources when the town around you is falling into ruin. If you haven't yet, download the Strategist's map in the description. It contains the 3 binary codes for surviving the abyss that we discussed today. You are not alone in the pit. King Wen is there. I am here. And the water is rising. That is a good thing. It means you are almost at the level where you can flow over. Be sincere. Be reliable. Be water.